interesting. This particular speaker and demonstration here was actually a request from one of our members, Steve WB2WAK, highly recommended it. And Steve, I don't know if you're out there or not, so here it is. And we're doing this one for you. And Karin, I trust that you.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, you are great. Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay. You have proven to be one of the most knowledgeable DMR people I've ever spoken to. You've been very, very helpful in trying to help me set up my DMR radio, which is an Anytone 578. And there's a lot of mysteries behind why it's programmed the way it's programmed. And you have had a great way of unraveling it. So without further ado, Karin from RT Systems, DMR genius. Go ahead.
George, you are much too generous. Thank you so much. After listening to all of you, and I have to admit I was eavesdropping before the meeting, I feel incredibly inadequate, but hopefully I will be able to teach all of you something about DMR and about the programmers and how they'll help you with DMR. Let me do just a little bit of history and intro on RT Systems that you may not be aware of, but RT Systems introduced amateur radio programming in 1995 when Yaesu introduced two radios and said they cloned. And God gave Rod a gift of interest in saying, I wonder if we can get this to talk to a computer. Well, you know the answer. He did, and it's all history from there. We actually started this, and I don't think there's a radio made today that doesn't do it. And as it was said to you earlier, you need to know how to do four things on your radio, and that is to tune to a frequency. Well, five things. You need to change from memory to VFO. You need to tune to a frequency. You need to set an offset. You need to turn on a tone, and you need to set the tone frequencies. You've got to be able to do those five things from the face of the radio, because as it was said, you may be in the field and all of a sudden a repeater goes down and everybody's got to go to another repeater, and you don't have your software and can't set up your radio, and now you're a water boy in the field. You're not in communications any longer. What RT Systems does for you is once you know how to do that, you don't have to do it 1,000 times to prove anything to anybody. So that's where we come in, is making that 1,000 times a lot easier and helping you reorganize things, because programming from the face, you might get something in twice. You might get it in once with the tone, once without a tone. You might get them not in the order that you want. And we can help with all of that, with, as George said, with laying things out and getting it just like you wanted in the radio. But I had been asked to talk about DMR tonight, and I'm going to show you DMR mainly in the Anytone radios, but I have a TYT radio, and I'm going to show you some similarities and differences and why it's different in a different programmer. So let me go to the programmers. Everybody should be able to see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. Very nice.
Okay. What you're looking at is a default file for the Anytone 578. In most default programming files, there will be a couple of frequencies, some of them open completely blank. But if you remember your radio when you first took it out of the box, there were a couple of memory channels in it just so it would make the display look nice. That's what this is. There is nothing sacred about them. You can change the frequencies. In some radios, you can leave the first channel blank. In some radios, as in Yaesu radios, it cannot tolerate that. And we will warn you, we will not let you send the program to the radio if you leave a channel blank. back to DMR. DMR starts with two things. One, your radio ID. This is your DMR number. And generally people fill in their call sign or their name at this point, but your call sign will be fine. Why this one is built with so many IDs, we're not quite sure, unless it's meant to be a fleet kind of function. And then you set it to a different ID when you hand somebody else a radio, but they're all already programmed in. But for most people, only the first line will be programmed in, and that takes care of the ID. Without the ID, you do not get into the DMR system. The next step in it are the talk groups. And your system is kind of nice because you're given 8 or 9 talk groups and told to use those. If you have a system or have a hotspot that you want to use other talk groups, you go someplace like DMR Mark, TGIF, or Brandmeister, and you find your ID. This number is the important part. This is the most important part. Nothing works without that. The name is whatever you want to call it. That is for you. So name it something that makes sense to you. We're going to use it in the program. You're going to see it on the face of the radio. You can put these in any order you want. I want to say when we close the program and reopen, they come back in numerical order. When we present them in a list in the program, we present them in alphabetical order. A lot of people will repeat the call ID in the name. That's fine. This is just a string. You can put anything in it you want. One thing that is very important, from what I can tell, your system is on DMR Mark, and you can't put Brandmeister call IDs in there. It can't use them. It's not set up to use them. It doesn't know what the number is. So a little research is required so you get the right group of IDs entered into this. But you have to do that research. Nobody can do that for you. Now, I take that back. Brandmeister, I don't know about the DMR Mark page, but Brandmeister has a CSV file. And I can import that CSV file here, and I can get all 1,600 of them. And that's kind of pointless. Because one, how are you ever going to use 1,600 different groups? Do you speak all the languages? Because believe me, they are worldwide. So that becomes an awful lot to dig through to find the ones that you want. So do it the other way around. Find the ones you want and put those in the list and make the list very usable for yourself. Another thing we have built into the program, I'm at File and External Data, and notice I have Contact List right here. I know it's a little small. All contacts, or I can pick any country. If I pick the United States, I can pick a state and get what I need for that area. If I have a radio that does not have 500,000 in its list, I may need to pick contacts in a smaller area. These are the contacts that you see when you make a contact on a talk group and it comes back with the caller's ID and his call sign and his name and location and other such information. And I would click on that, but I promised tonight it would take forever to come back, and I don't want to have to wait for that. But once this is filled, if you click to radio, that fills that into the radio. This is a process that can take 10 to 12 to 15 minutes. Start it, carefully set the radio down, and leave it alone. If something goes wrong, either the program or the radio will tell you it's not happy. When everything goes right, you'll come back and the radio will just be rebooted and waiting for you. But I've had lots of people tell me they get real anxious, didn't know what was going on. but it is happening. It goes to a different part of the memory that is only accessed through this process. And so we don't pull it back out of the radio. We just recommend you pull another list. This is being pulled from radioid.net. So it is the reference. It's where all the IDs are. And put it in the radio occasionally. And then you have the new list and all the new ones that are in there. This talk group limit 10,000, this would get you private calls to actually go into your talk group list. Again, probably not what you're looking for. You're looking more in private calls for Joe in Pennsylvania that you talked to on Thursday night, if you have a way to make that contact, and then you have the one-to-one contact. So again, things you'd enter individually. So that's what that screen is for. Built right into the program. Let's go over to memories. These radios can do analog and digital. And I can bring analog in a couple of ways. I can go to external data and repeater book search. And I did this for 2 areas up in your area and got like 700 repeaters. And I thought, that's a little much. I mean, it's doable, but it's a little much. So again, if I click on this, I can tell it I was in Selden, New York, and I did 50 miles around it. And when I tell it okay, I get the list back. I can reach right down here and I can take out the D-Star, the P25, and believe it or not, I'm going to take out the DMR from this because I'm looking for analog right now. I'm going to leave the Fusion because those are generally mixed mode and can do FM also. But what's really cool about this, I'm pulling this over to the right of this screen, and I have a distance column. And if I click on the word distance, I now have the closest repeaters first, and I go out from there, from the point where I started. Now, this is circular, so 1 mile could be east and 1 mile could be west, and those technically are 2 miles apart, but they're both 1 mile from you. So what I'm going to do with this is, instead of taking all of these, because like I said, it's a little much for what I'm doing, I'm going to reach up here and take, the first 20 or 30. And I'm just going to copy them and bring them back to the file that I'm building. And I'm going to paste. And they're right there. I have a name. I have my tones set up the way I need them. Tone or tone squelch appropriately. And I'm almost there. Everything, I'm going to save this before I leave this page. Everything in a DMR radio must go in a zone. This is a holding tank, kind of like all those IDs are in a holding tank. This is what makes it work. So my zone 1, I'm going to change the name. And remember, you're going to see this name on the radio, so you want to name it something that makes sense to you. And then I click Edit right here. This is the little box that takes them from the memory bank, this list over here, the holding tank, that's what I called it, to the zone. And the easiest way to do it is I can do a multi-select. This is not the prettiest in the world, I'll warn you. When I add, notice the blue stays, and if I click Add again, it'll take the next one. But you can selectively bring them over, or I can just leave it here and just click Add, 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 Add. And just that quick, I have them all in there because I wanted them all anyway. But if I want this one for Selden first, I can move it up. Or if that's not where I want it, I can move it down. And that's where it will appear in the radio in order. This radio has a choice as to whether it will show you that it's channel, looks like about channel 10 in the zone, or this original channel 6. That depends on you as to whether you're going to remember it as Selden or want to remember that channel position. So that's what's going on there. And I click OK. These are just a suggestion for you of, well, what about do I have in it? Because there are only 26 in here, and I happen to have 26, but I could have 250, and there was no way we could put 250 columns across there. So it's a sampling of what's in here. If you truly want to see it, just click Edit, and you'll see it. This channel A and channel B are the first channels that are going to appear when you access that zone. One's for your A bank and one's for your B bank. Okay. So again, I'm going to save before I leave this page. Go back to memories. Now for the fun, we're going to do DMR. I'm going to do one more thing. Wait, sorry. I'm going to do your repeaters. We've got a plain view, and we have a Selden, and we have a digital. Okay. Just because I want them. No real reason. You'll see why in a minute. But right this minute, it's just because I want them. I'm going to go back to memories. Settings, DMR calculator. The first one is 449.375 tab. It already knows that it's a minus offset. So my transmit frequency is right. It's going to start on channel number 27. I'm going to use the talk group as the name. The color code is 1. And the repeater slot is 1. I could change it to 2 if I wanted. I could change this to any one of the 15 or 16 that I wanted. And I want these in plain view because this is the plain view repeater. And of these talk groups, number 333 is not available to it. Sorry, I have not done the update on this. These now show the numbers out to the side of them. And I could use that right this minute. DMR plus, here, it's this one. DMR plus reflector, because I remember what I called it. So I don't want that one. I want all the others. And I'm going to apply. I'm done. Let me go ahead and close this for a minute. Notice they're digital. I have names on them. Let's make this easier. Edit digital mode. I just made all the analog columns go away. My talk groups are set up. My repeater slot's set up. My color code's set up. And they're ready to go. If you want to do APRS and the other things, you can set that up. Speaking of setting up, let's say I do want to do APRS. These are digital. And let me move it over just a little bit. I want to do it on APRS channel 2. And I want that for all of these, for any one of the talk groups. Control C, Control V, those are all set up. Control C, Control V. Got that part already. Whole lot easier than digging through one page at the time to make that change on each of them. Same thing would go for repeater slot or color code. You can send them all to the same talk group the same way, but that's kind of unrealistic. But you get the idea. It has column editing. And it put it in the zone. What was supposed to put it in the zone? What did it do? Like I said, I haven't updated this in a while. I apologize. And I promise when I do a demo, something always goes wrong. It just does. So, but the one at work, they were all filled in just like they were supposed to be. Help check for updates. Anytime you run the program, there's always something going on. So I apologize for that. But you get the idea of what it's doing. Let's see if this helps it out. No, it's still unhappy. Like I said, it always has to do that to me. Okay, your Selden one, 449.3625. We're going to start on channel 36, color code 1 again. We're going to put them in Selden. We're going to take all the talk groups and we're going to apply. And okay. And close. And it probably did the same thing. Nope, it got this one right. There we go. That's what it was supposed to do. See, they're all in there. And it has chosen something to be 1 and 2 and just change them to what you want them to be. Okay. So that makes it a whole lot easier. Did I have questions?
If you have a radio that you already have your software for, and it's a different brand, are you able to import the repeaters that you have on that other radio into the new radio that, different brands?
If you have software, 2 different pieces of software from us for 2 different radios, all you have to do is copy and paste between the 2.
Okay, so everything ends up in the right column. They figure it out.
It matches up the likes and it ignores the differences. Here, I'll show you real quick. Let's do the Yaesu FT70. And I'm in the any tone. And I'm going to give it a half chance because I'm just going to take the analog ones. Because if I took the digital, the Yaesu would turn them into analog, and I don't want to do that. So I am going to give it this chance, and all I have to do is pick this up, right click and copy, or Control C, and come to the 70 and click in it once just to tell it I'm here, and right click and paste, and there I have the same list with tones set up and ready to go. Notice a major difference in these 2. Nope, this one's only got 1 tone to use for tone squelch. Some of them have 2 tones, some of them have 1 tone. That's something that you kind of have to keep an eye on with your tone squelches, especially if you're going from a 2 to a 1 and you have a pair where they're different. Here's 1 tone squelch. It's coming in on, it's going to the repeater on 136 and coming back on 127. That's all well and good. The Yaesu can't do that. So on channel number 11, I want to change this to tone so I can get into the repeater with the 136, but I'm going to have to put up with the noise coming back because I don't have the 127 to block it, because the radio just can't do it. So those are the kind of things you have to touch it up with, but in general, everything matches and it's good to go. Yeah, that's the only one I see out of the list. Sure beats typing them all in one at the time. And if you were typing this in, you would get over here and realize you couldn't put those two pieces of information in. So just a difference in the way the radios work. Anybody else?
On DMR, what
Yes, sir.
is talk alias?
I'm sorry, on DMR, what is?
Talker alias.
I read just a little bit about that today, but I did not concentrate on it. Your best bet is an internet search and what information you can get on it. I'm not positive, in all honesty. Like I said, I ran into something on it that I got from someone who I'm asking questions of, but it just didn't stick. I didn't concentrate on it well enough. Tell me your call sign or shoot me an email at my tech support and address it to Karin, and I will get you an answer and get you information back on that.
I know a lot of times they'll have things in the DMR that's set up for commercial use. We don't do, some of the things that they'll do in the commercial. And where you might have multiple repeaters that you'll be basically, it will be trunking to, find a repeater that's open and then let you do stuff. So we don't do that in ham.
Well, I was actually going to mention that this roam channels, I don't know how far apart these two repeaters are, but it may be that their coverage doesn't really overlap. I presume one's like north of the city and one south of the city. And you could, I believe this is how this works. You could set those two repeaters up in this roam channel and then set up a roam zone. And from what I understand, when you go from one repeater to the other, it will pick up the strongest signal of the two as you move closer to it, that's what a roam channel is. I would think that would be worth investigating, because y'all got to set up to investigate it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one more time.
I think that's one of the things they don't want you to do in ham, whether they do it in commercial. That you know, if I'm on the Glen Oaks repeater, let's say, and I start roaming into the Plainview repeater, they're too damn close, and it will cause all sorts of problems to the system. Where if it was a commercial system, it would know enough to, you know, keep me in one place or the other.
Okay. Well, I duly noted, and I will keep that in mind when if someone asks me about that. Like you say, that's more of a commercial thing not to do in the ham bands. Okay.
Good evening. You can, and I have a couple of fast questions. I love the fact that when you have the RT Systems software for a number of your different radios, you can, just paste them all together. But very, very quickly, especially if you have other people who want to share their RT Systems listings, it becomes really a big monster. Number one, do you have any resources that suggest the best way to organize these? And can I email you for them?
Okay. No, I heard most of that. What was the last question that came in from the gentleman?
When it just becomes, it can become a horrendous mess where you have this huge long list of various different things that are pasted together. Sometimes there are duplicates that are only slightly off. So, but they're basically the same report, the same repeater. And any good ideas as to how you organize and put things down so it's easier to work with?
Okay, couple of things we have in here. We have edit and sort.
Right.
You can sort by any one of the columns to organize it, and you can organize it, like you said, you've got frequencies that are the same. Be very careful with frequencies that are the same. They may have different tones, which is deliberate because the same pair will be given out with a different tone so they don't interfere with each other. But if you want to delete one or more of them where you've got duplicates, you can do that, and then you can unsort. But do your changes, unsort, and then save, because once you save, the unsort is no longer available. They become that order. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much. Number two, sometimes the radio makes assumptions as to what the offset should be, or it just has its own little programming idea of what should be there, and it's not what's there in reality. How does your software work with that? Does it, maybe you forget to put the right thing in?
At any time, you can change any column, because
You have to know to change it.
the presumptions are based on a standard band plan from 1995, which is still the standard band plan. But frequency pairs could be let out with a different offset or a different value for the offset. And you would have to know that and know to make that change for your specific situation. And that's one reason why tones are not set, except when they're coming in from repeater book or someplace. But if you type in 146.94, it presumes a minus offset and a 600 but if that's not what it is, make your changes. But you notice tone comes in as none, because that we know is in complete control of the repeater operator. So that information you have to provide.
Great. Thank you very much. And sometimes when you read, you're not too sure where that number should go, and you're not too sure you have complete information. Do you have any 101 for understanding repeater listings that for people who are just beginning? Because repeaters are the first thing you do when you first pick up your ham radio.
Okay, let me change pages here. Let me go to my page real quick. And I will get you started. You're fine. Here, we'll just go in a little different direction. Let me go to my knowledge base. And let me go to tone. Tone modes and tone squelch. Tone modes change, that was tone and tone squelch, the basics. Squelch modes, incorrect use can make your radio deaf. Tones from the basics to the advanced. That's what, 4 different articles I have that, let's see, I don't need that one. I need this one. Come to me. To read about them, what it is, what it affects, and this video is very in-depth with details of tone and tone squelch. Click here to get more information. If you prefer to watch this video, tone and tone squelch, the basics. Now, to see tones in action on a pair of radios, click here to see tones in action.
Right, great, that's simple. And yes, you can understand that all very, very well, but then you see a frequency printed and then a number after it. And you're never too sure exactly where it should fit in onto the RT systems.
You're welcome to call. You're welcome to call, and our tech support folks will help you with it, because yes, sometimes it takes explaining. And, once you get the explanation and realize what your list says, then you can go on with the rest of your list. And you are welcome to call. You might, if you've got what you have in a PDF, or shoot a picture of it and go ahead and send it before your call, so we have the same thing to look at. Or when you send it, give us your name and phone number and a good time, and we'll call you back if we can. Just tell us you have questions about this information. And believe me, I have seen lists that I almost couldn't figure out. Yeah, and I've been at this for a long time.
Very, you go through all the basics, but then when it's there in print, and I guess it takes experience to say, oh, well, yes, that is an offset, or that is a tone code, and know exactly what kind it is and where it should go. That's what I was trying to do. But thank you very much. This has been a wonderful presentation.
But like I say, you are always welcome to call. And let me give you one warning. The two guys who worked for me, they are wonderful. They are very technical, but they tend to be a tad technical for the beginner. If you ask for one of the ladies or for a beginner, they will direct you to them, and they are well on your level. And we'll get somebody that you work with. We realize their personalities involved, and we will get someone that you are comfortable with, because we are there to help you understand and enjoy your radio and the hobby. That is what we are there for. Okay.
Thank you very much. Three different copies of your software for 3 different types of radios. So thank you very, very much.
Well, you're very welcome.
Does your system have any problem if you're dealing with a computer that has, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Pi-Star, where you can actually have one repeater that does DMR, D-Star, Fusion, all different, it has all different modes that it can go, including analog, and the repeater recognizes the signal and then switches to that mode. Does your software able to handle, in other words, a repeater that may have multiple listings because they're in different modes?
My software programs your radio to go to the repeater. So it's going to depend, are you using an Anytone radio so you can program it for digital? Are you using a radio that you can only program in FM? I can't make the radio do something other than what the radio does. And then as far as how the repeater handles your signal, that's between the repeater and your radio. So it kind of boils back down to this, how do I put this information in that I have? But these repeaters that do all these different things, they just accommodate all the different radios when the radio is set up properly. So it's, I don't interact with the repeater. I just interact with your radio with the basic information for the repeater.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that the software wouldn't try and say, oh, you've already used that air for that repeater, and now you're pulling it to digital. So
nope. Matter of fact, that's what I was going to say a minute ago for tones. If you're not sure, program in the same channel 4 different times with 4 different kinds of tones and 4 different value pairs, or 6 different value pairs. Name them all something different so you know which channel worked. And when that channel works, go back and delete the other 5 and reprogram the radio so you have the one that works. No, you are not limited. You want to put in the same frequency 100 times? Have at it. We're not going to stop you. That's just fine. And that's part of the experimenting. Change one parameter and see how it changes your performance. The thing is, you don't have your performance until you're 40 miles away from your computer. So put it in there 5, 6, 7, 8 times with a change to a parameter and see which one works best in the field. Makes it real easy. Just use copy and paste on that line and keep pasting it down and changing that one parameter that you need to experiment with. Absolutely. That's a very good use of the program. Anybody else? Before I go back to the DMR for a couple minutes.
Does your software only do DMR, or do you have versions for D-Star or System Fusion type radios?
I do 550 different radios. I do Fusion, D-Star, DMR, analog, just about anything that these radios do. Mhm. Do what?
Okay, as long as it does it.
As long as what?
As long as the radio supports it.
Exactly. I support the radios and their features, and the radio does the functions. But you talked about D-Star, just like that DMR calculator. I have a D-Star calculator built in, and I can go to New York, and I happen to go to Lyndhurst and pick this one, and I can pick all the reflectors and tell it to apply, and I now have all the reflectors set up in memory, which in today's D-Star radios is not quite as necessary as it was when we first got started, but just that quick. I have them all set up. I didn't have to count a single space. Everything's set up so it'll hit it and it's ready to go. So we put all those kind of hints and little things in to try to make this easier to handle the data that these radios can handle. And notice this difference. See, this is an ICOM, and it is a zero-based numbering system. You have a zero channel, where in this is the Anytone, it is a one-based. Again, just the way the radios are made. But let's go back to this. Yes, sir.
Karen, can you just clarify whether you need different versions of your software to do that, or it's all built into, the RT systems?
Radio software is specific to the radio. You buy the software for the radio that you're programming. The links to external data are all built in. The repeater book and the frequency list and the others. The contact list and the repeater list are not a part of an analog or a D-Star radio, because that is just information for a DMR radio. The D-Star calculator is not built into the DMR radios because it can't use the D-Star repeaters. So, but software is specific to the radio. You buy software for a particular radio. And we do that for two reasons. One, it is totally customized to the radio. Can you imagine having a program that's got 1,500 options across the screen, and you've got to guess at which ones apply and which ones don't? It would be an absolute nightmare. The other is, I will be the first one to tell you that I know that a lot of the Chinese radios are the same under the covers, but the manufacturer releases them with a different number, and we release software with a different number. That is 99% just an effort to keep you organized, because then in 6 months, when you go to program that radio again, you don't have to go digging for a list that says, oh, I was supposed to use the ABC to program my MFJ radio. And what if that list is gone and now you have no idea what you're supposed to use? We'll sell you something for the ABC radio and the MFJ radio, and then you know you've got what you need when you go looking for it in the future. But especially when it comes to the cheap Chinese radios, if you think it's going to work, try it. We won't stop it. It's worth a try. And we also now use the cables from the manufacturers. We have COM port setup. The DMR radios do not have COM port setup because we find this automatically for you. If you're using our cables, Where's this? Here's the 70. See, this has COM port set up, but if you're using our USB 57B cable for this, skip COM port setup. If the cable says RT Systems, we know the cable and we'll find it automatically for you. No reason to struggle with it. But no, it's all customized. Software alone is $25. Software with cables runs $35 for some and $49 for others, depending on where the electronics lie. Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
But in all programs, what you see on this screen is only the beginning of your radio. You saw that a little bit in the DMR when I went back and forth from the radio ID to the talk groups, to the memories, to the zones. Okay, there's a lot going on down here at the bottom, but there's also settings and radio menu settings. This is the rest of your radio. And when it comes to the DMR radios, this is extensive. George and I were talking about it earlier today, and he was saying with the DMR, he doesn't hear very much. Well, come in here and turn on remote monitoring. That lets you hear all talk groups on the repeater. Talk group hold time, extend these so you can listen for a bit before it runs off on you. Your function keys. Again, excuse me, George, I just remember our conversation from yesterday. He was saying he was having a little trouble changing zones on his 578. And we came right here and we set a key for, here we go, zone up, and another key for zone down. And so now all he has to do is reach down on the face of the radio and press the P3 or the P4 key. And that could just as easily be the P1 and the P4 key, which looking at the radio, I've got one sitting here, are the top two buttons. And that's even easier. And you touch one and it changes zones for you, goes up and down. The other thing I suggested is when you're experimenting with these, use something and take a screenshot of this, cut it out and tape it to the dash of the car so you can remember what you set those buttons to do. One, you can find out that if it's really doing what you set it to do. And two, you can remember what you set it to do. And I don't make light of this. I have worked with enough of these radios now that when I sit down with any one of these radios, first thing I do is a get data from, and the second thing I do is check to see what's on the keys, because I promise it won't be set up for what I'm testing. And this is like a vital step. What are the keys doing? Because if they're not doing what I want them to do, then I'm frustrated because I'm pushing buttons and it's not responding. Display, colors and other type things. Right here, we talked about channel numbers. Display channel numbers, actual channel number, which is going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down that main page, or the sequence number in the zone. Again, it'd be something to play with and see which one you like better. We did key functions. If you want to do APRS, analog, here is where you put your frequency. And you can put 8 different APRS frequencies. Why, we're not quite sure, but you can set up your symbol, your call sign, and other things to go with it. So it's a matter of just working through here. And what is it that I'm looking for? Sub-channel mode. Check that and you get 2 displays on the radio. If that's more than you can handle, it would be for me. Uncheck it and you get 1 on the radio. So just a lot going on back here. Remember, this is always here on every radio. Close, apply changes and close. When I do communications and send data to radio, all of this goes. All of it on the active tab, which right this minute is this one. Doesn't matter, I have others open. This is the one I'm working in, and that's the one that's going to go to the radio. And that's true for all programmers. Okay. What else? I've given you a lot to absorb tonight, haven't I?
Do we have any questions from the folks who are online? I think we have a large audience online over here, and they're welcome to speak up too. So anybody who's online,
If you raise your hand, and I'll unmute you. No questions online, George.
okay. Karen, I guess I'm in position of thank you again. It's quite a lot to digest, and I'm sure you've stirred a lot of interest in the RT system software, and apparently it works very well. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can do with it as a club, and increase and improve our activity on our DMR repeaters. So thank you so much.
Well, you are.
Anyone in the chat, say something or raise your hand.
Well, we're waiting for a question here.
Somebody in the chat.
I don't see anything in chat myself.
Yeah, I don't see, there's a flag that says one.
One here.
We click on that button.
While we're waiting for that to come in, the person.
It's a new chat. That's just a new chat. Somebody didn't. Since we're not nobody's watching chat, that's just show there's a new chat. That's all. I'm watching the real chat.
Okay. In reference to the questions about beginners, we are there Monday through Friday, 9 until 5. You could count on us being there. Saturday, 9 until 3, and a little hint, I'm there on Saturday. So if you keep me busy, I'm at my desk. But if you leave a message, I'm always trying to monitor the messages, because sometimes if it's a little quiet, I have other things to do. So, but I'll be more than happy to help you on a Saturday too. But Monday is the worst day to call. Everybody likes to call on Monday. So if we're going to get in depth with you and answer more, like I say, with more explanation, try to time it so that you're not calling on a Monday. We'll have much more time to work with you. Not that we'll cut you short, I promise you that, but we'll be more relaxed with it and be able to answer all your questions.
Great. Okay. Is there a best time to call statistically?
Thursday. I do not know why. Thursday, Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. Friday, they all of a sudden realize we're not going to be there and we get busy again. But Wednesday afternoon and Thursday, the best 2 days.
Good. That's actually important information to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very good. Okay. With that, and Karen, thank you so much for this. Thank you. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much.
And,
You are very welcome, and thank you very much for having me. And one more thing I'm going to do for the club and for all of you. Let's see, this is the 14th until the 29th of February. If you'll use LIMARC 2024 on my site, it'll get you a 10% discount.
Somebody write that down.
Yeah.
Repeat that. LIMARC 2024.
Limark 2024, that's simple. Oh, and the other thing, the gift
Yes.
certificates I send, those are worth $60 for anything you buy from my site. You can buy all cables, you can buy all software, you can buy mixtures that you want. So it's just $60, however you want to use it for on the site. It'll cover the shipping on the order. So just so you know when you see my gift certificate the next time.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Thank you, and be safe tonight getting home in the snow. I heard about that.
It's the worst snow we've had in 2 years.